I've been here in Rosarito since 2000. I'm an attorney since 2009, and I'm also a closer. Like he said, you need tools, and I agree with him, because one of the main problems that we receive as attorneys is closings or contracts that are not properly, and then people get into trouble, and they come to attorneys, which is great for us because it's money for us, but I prefer to prevent. So that's why I went into closing. My specialty is corporate law, so which is contracts, trusts, and closings, of course. And well, what I do basically is I'm Switzerland. I don't go to any side. I just make sure both parties are protected in the contracts. And whoever have worked with me, they know that. That when you bring a person, I don't see it's as a friend of mine, so I'm gonna protect her. I see both parties, and I protect both parties in the contract to make sure this contract goes full in without any problems. Sometimes people come in with contracts or persons that want to sell, but they don't even have the legal capacity to do so because they inherit and they didn't know the law and they didn't know they had to make changes. But not because of that we're gonna lose that sale. There's ways to do it and do proper contracts while the person gets their papers in order. So that's what I do. That's what I try to find ways to not lose a sale and both parties be able to, one, acquire the property and the other sell it without any consequences. Sometimes, of course, sales takes longer. That's why we use depositaries. You know them as escrows, but in Mexico, the legal term is a depositario. So you can have judicial depositaries, which is in court, or private depositaries, which I recommend always to use a person that is certified or it has a guarantee, a bond, because not everybody has bond. You have to check on that. That's why I prefer to use public brokers, which are already protected by a bond. So when I do a closing that needs a depositary or an escrow, like you call it, I use a public broker 7 and 17. And I share that with you because it's not something that is just for me. It's there. You can have it. And I always use them. And I work perfect with them because they accommodate the escrow according to your contract, not according to what a format contract that they already have in their hands. They accommodate the service according to what the needs of the contract of sale says. So that's something that I like about them. So yeah.
Quick question. And do they have accounts in the U.S.?
In the U.S.
And in Mexico?
And in Mexico.
So
they do both. And they always prefer to do in the States because of usually the buyers are Americans. Sure. And they don't want to put their money in Mexico or transfer money in Mexico. So we do it, and we have done it. He has done that with us, and it's great. They only, in the contracts, I know clients want everything to be transferred at the moment of sale at the notary. It's almost not impossible, but it's really hard because notaries take time to do their process. And according to this company, this depositary, what they do is they transfer funds until the notary sends a letter saying the documents have been signed, transfer. They receive an instruction from another public faith, another person like them, that they have both public faiths. Remember that the corredor público or public brokers have public faith the same as a notary. The only thing that they cannot do is the transfer of domain.
On the public registry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But they can do transfer of rights over a trust. And it's cheaper to use also public brokers.
So then the actual transfer of funds in this case wouldn't occur. Let's say if it's a fideicomiso, until the bank comes and signs off on the accepting the trust.
When the seller and the buyer signs in front of
Okay, so the notary signs off at that time.
Exactly.
Okay, all right.
The bank can take some time, but
That's what
once it's signed by both parties, the sale is closed.
The same day.
Okay, yeah. All right. Okay.
They have in their contracts, they usually place 5 days to do transfers, because if it falls on a Friday, then they can do it on a Monday. With him, it was the next day, I believe. Only one was delayed because the commissioners didn't give the information on the bank account. To do transfer over $3,000 or something, they need the address of the bank to which you're transferring, and she didn't provide it. That's why it took like more than 5 days, but it was because she didn't provide that information. But it doesn't take more than 5 days to do everything, but they usually do it on the next day.
And what's the cost associated with that?
They have a range of costs according to to the money that they're having in account. I believe that up to 300,000 was like $800 or 700 and something. That's their fees. That nothing to do with me, but it's not that out of the range of prices that any escrow does. But they have guarantee. That's what I like about them, because I need to make sure the money is safe, the parties are safe, because you're putting your money. It happened. You might know from the past. It happened with a person that was really respectful in the realtor system, and people trusted her as an escrow agent, and you know what happened. She just dismissed with the money, and there was no guarantees. So be careful on that. And like I said, I'm an attorney also, so I know about the law. I know about documents. So when you come to me for a closing, it's not only to do contracts. I will review that the documents you have are properly done. And also, one other thing in Mexico, where they're really picky about it, are names. If you have a letter that is not the same in the trust that in the URD, we have a situation there. But there's ways to solve it without getting all complicated. But we need to check on that with our clients. And always, like I like that you're going to prepare your listings. Just make sure when they bring you the proper escrituras or the titles, so you can have in advance an idea what else will go through, because sometimes you are ready to have a closing, the people is in need of the house, and these people that are selling are not even the owners. And so let's just make sure to if there's a situation that they understand that is an additional cost to that. Because sometimes they think by coming to a closing that paying for the closing fees will resolve their estate opening in the court, or will resolve other issues at the bank, because the bank needs to know first an acknowledgement of new beneficiary if they were the beneficiary in the trust, and then do the transfer of the sale. Or they have to understand that there are next steps to follow if they don't have papers in order.
What is your, as a closing officer, what is your closing fee?
I'm
just going to tell you so you get an idea where the direction is. So what are your closing fees? The other one is, if I have a client that is moving towards a closing that we want to find out if it has a capital gain issue, is that something that we can address with you? And does that have a cost? With which notaries do you work? And how long does it take you to close, on a transaction? Those kind of details.
Right now, my closing fees, if it's just closing, which intent it's the contract and going to the notary or the bank, which is the closing, is $1,600. I use mostly notary number 2, which is closer to my office, and I have a good relationship with her, so we can speed up processes. I also work with notary number 1, and I can work with any notary in Tijuana, but in Rosarito, you always use those, preferably number 2. I also only do the contract. Sometimes you don't need the closing, or you have the other party wants to have their own people, but you need a really good contract for your client. I can do that too. And the cost goes depending on the complication of the contract or what type of contract it is.
And when we work with you, do our clients have direct contact with you, or do you have an assistant taking care of them?
No, they have contact with me, but I do recommend appointments, because sometimes there's people that just come in and they think I don't have anybody else, but I do have appointments. I have the first appointment to explain to them what the situation is and what we're going to do. But usually I direct to both parties, the emails, everything is saying this is happening, this is how we are, because I believe it's your client. So you have to have that with them. But the first one,
keep us in the loop.
I don't know, of course, because I'm just the closer. I'm not in charge of the wholesale.
Okay.
I have another question for you. Most of the agents right now are taking listings, and a lot of the listings have problems with the titles, and there's all kinds of dirtiness that is not allowing the listing to be able to transfer title. Help clean those up, because we don't want to list a property that can't be sold.
Exactly.
But these people need to sell their properties. So would they come to you and work with you to get it to where they can then get it sold?
Of course.
And what's the process then for something like that?
For referral, if you want, you just refer them to me. But if you want to be involved, just through you.
Well, we want to get the goal is, we make our money from selling real estate. So the goal is to get the property clean so we can sell it, right? And so it would be nice to get it. So when we go out there and people go, I want to sell my home, and like you said, there's family issues, there's all these kinds of stuff going on. We're going, well, we know you want to sell it, but you've got to do some stuff before we can actually list it. And so would that be the point of where we go, you need to go talk to you and then from there, then you help them figure out what they need to do to get it to a point where you can come back to us so we can list it properly and then get it
Of
sold.
course, yeah, usually that's what people do. They come to me to make their things right
Okay.
so they can sell.
Okay.
But sometimes they bring the whole problem and we have to fix it first before we sell it.
Right.
That's when you really need to close a sale, that the parties are an acknowledgement that there is a problem, but they really want the house or they need to move in, so we need to figure out a promise of sale contract in which the condition is there to fix the situation. That's
So you
when-
can help come up with a strategy for all parties to be able to do something that's safe and secure for everybody so that everyone's protected in
Yes,
that
because
process,
we
right?
are litigators.
Okay.
We are in court, so
Okay.
we can do the process.
Okay.
It's not only me in the office. We also have another associate that does immigration for Americans here. I have litigators in Tijuana and litigators in Rosarito. I tend not to litigate anymore because I cannot do everything. So litigation takes too much time in court. So I'm more into the corporate stuff, but I do have people that litigate. But I know what they need to do. I can tell people what we need to do. I can give the fees that we're going to charge for that and how long it will take for that. But I have more people. It's not only me.
So, one of the things you guys, most of the agents down here, they sign a listing agreement and then they go deal with the problems, right? And then you don't find out the problems until you're already got offers, you're halfway through the transaction, you're doing all this work and then they're going, oh, there's problems. So we obviously don't want to be that company. We want to make sure that we're dealing with the problems, we're putting up clean listings and things are being handled so that way if somebody does come and make an offer on a property, we have a title that can be transferred.
So would it be possible that if I'm going to take this listing, for me I'm trying to find something that makes sense, because I think that our major problems is liens.
Yeah.
Liens.
That's a big
We
one.
don't find out about liens until we're there. And so would it be of interest, something like where, okay, if I have this listing, I gather the paperwork, I send it to you, so that at the very least you can tell me whether we're going to have an issue with the liens, and of course but there's an understanding that if I'm involving you in this, then it's not okay to go close with somebody else, because it's got to be a two-way street. Would that be something in that sort of way that can be worked? Because we can't just be taking paperwork to you and then for you to work for free. But that's one of the situations that I think we have the most is with the lien situation. Or do you have another recommendation of how we should go about
It's
it?
really simple, actually, to check on liens. Go to the public register property and search for the name. And there's, or you would request a certificate of no liens on the public registry.
And so here's the thing, we're focusing on what our job is, and
Yeah.
that's
Exactly. That's something that you go.
I mean,
Exactly.
I can tell you that's a good strategy,
Uh-huh.
but to focus and give our
We
clients the
don't
right
have
time.
time for that.
And
Maybe
if
we
you
need
will
some
be spending
help.
money on that, because even if they cost, like, let's say 600 pesos, the certificate of no
Sure.
lien,
Well,
Sure.
it's not-
and you still need to search back, because you don't, like he said, you need the tools. You are not a know-it-all.
Yeah.
And even though a certificate of no lien can be issued, but you need to check on the title. How did the party obtain the property?
Yeah.
Because it happened, and it was a case that I did. I was actually the attorney in which we did a prescription
Okay.
for a client.
Yeah.
He sold it. We did a trust, and then all of a sudden it came the
30
third party
years ago.
got an amparo and turned everything down.
That's
The
probably
person that
business,
purchased has the right to file an amparo too, but he hasn't done anything. He's waiting for the one that was my client
Okay.
to do something.
Okay.
So I know the property is not in risk because the guy that did this did it out of anger because he didn't get what he wanted.
Sure.
But he dismissed a whole trust. We need to check what you're not responsible of the ways it was acquired, because it is acquired legally, it is in the registry, but you need to make sure just it's there.
She's talking about from a listing perspective. If
Mm-hmm.
we were to bring you a buyer that is looking to quote your services, is that something you can provide an estimate, a good faith estimate on, and
Mm-hmm.
check? Just do a pre-screening to make sure that
First,
it's,
I can prepare something for you, a cost or a fee for that. I can
Just
check
for
with my
pre-screening.
paralegal and see how much this was to make it cheaper but effective. I don't have that because I usually do the whole closing, not only do
No,
the.
that's what he meant.
Uh-huh.
That's what he meant.
it's just a
A
pre-screening.
pre-screening.
You're gonna take care of the
He meant
closing.
if they take a buyer to you to do the closing on,
Uh-huh.
Right.
and they're gonna say, okay, here's my buyer, he's gonna close with you, here's everything, and this is the property he's buying. What we're asking is do you do like a break before you get into spending
I
his
know, of
money?
course.
Or you look into it to make sure that it's
I know,
It's
of course.
not like step
Through title
4
search.
when you already
Yeah.
spent.
No,
and
no,
you're
no.
already on
When
the
you
way.
bring a
Right.
client for me, I do the title search first.
perfect.
That's what I check if it's gonna be possible to do
Perfect.
this
Yeah,
sale.
great.
Yeah, no, I do that first.
Okay.
We don't do contracts if this is not clear.
I want to say that our goal as a company is to help clean up the reputation of the real estate, industry here by taking good listings. And one of the things I found is one of our biggest problems is the listing side. Most of the listings up here, the agents haven't done their job, haven't done the due diligence to make sure that the listings are transferable. And so it creates a lot of problems between the clients where they get involved in a transaction that just ends up blowing up to be a nightmare. So the cleaner we can start with at the beginning, the better the chances of us getting through that transaction and everyone being happy with the results. So we're trying to figure out what are some of the tools that we can use in order to make sure that the listings what we're putting up or the buyers that we're bringing into listings are not going to get halfway down and start spending money with opening up escrows, paying for closing services and all that, and then finding out that they're into a property that can't be closed or transferred.
That's why you should come first. Once you have the offer, before any contracts are signed, you need to come first because that's what I do to begin with is do the title search. And if I found out things like, for example, it's not in their names, then I will do the recommendation. You need to do this. These are the approximate costs. I always give the cost of bank costs because I call the bank to see how much it will be, the requirements and everything. Banks are changing their formats every single day. And there is information that they don't even need, but they want. And we need to fulfill that. And that's why I always do, even though people argue, why so much months do you want to put in the contract? Because I do always establish 6 months. They say, but we can do it in 3 years, but I don't want to risk it to be in default because banks, the term for closing from the beginning, I always establish 6 months. We do it in 3. We did it in 3, but if we established 6.
So up to 6 months. Well, I mean that.
You know
prevents
why
you
I
from
do
having
that?
To do a transaction.
And you know what also, because sometimes when people come in, they don't know about, well, I don't know if the law is going to change in January, but they don't know if they had their electric bill with the taxpayer ID registered, they can deduct the capital gains. And so if I put 6 months, and we did that since the beginning of the signing of the contract, we have the time to get those bills in order for the closing. So you prevent one of the clients to be paying like crazy amounts of capital gains.
Right.
And you can deliver possession. We have a strategy for that. When people really want to get possession, we establish a contract in which this can happen. If it's the selling party that needs the 6 months in order to get the deduction, then we make them bend some
Sessional rights.
sessional rights, so the other party doesn't get desperate because they put the money all in. That's actually what I always establish. If they put all the money in the escrow, they already have the right for possession because all their money is there already. So it's depending on what is every situation is different. So it's very hard to have just a cookie cutter form because your situations and your clients will be very different.
Thank you very much, Betty. I just want to say one last thing. She was involved in the seller side of my transaction, and she did a very wonderful job.
What transaction was it?
It was a La Jolla Del Mar listing, and she took care of everything from day one. She was involved. She actually asked me for the listing agreement. She put my name into the contract to protect my commission. She was very clear and very organized. She worked with the closing agent on the other side, on the buyer side, and they coordinated very well. But she did most of the work for the closing, and she did a very magnificent job.
Last question. Can we get your business card?
All right, you guys, thank you very much for coming. We really appreciate it. Thank you for watching our video. If you're planning on buying real estate in the Rosarito Beach area, make sure to give us a call. Have a great day, everybody.